This week we're going to start the pre-production stage of the team project. Basically, this stage is answering the question, how does your team plan on getting this project done? So this week each team needs to create two documents, a schedule and a proposal, and begin development. So for two-person teams, there's going to be some more coordination involved. And there's a grid of different things that people could do, but you'll see a schedule grid in a new document when you see this, and that's something that you'll fill out as a kind of back of envelope estimate of what you're going to do each week to get to some place of having a working beta at the end. So some of these things are going to take longer than others, and even if you're working alone, you can use this chart as a reference right here. So I recommend that you create a rough draft of the schedule as soon as possible and later revise it based on what is feasible. So the next thing would be a proposal document, which is just going to expand on that concept document from last week. It's going to have a summary, player motivation, a unique selling proposition, which is from the textbook. Alternatively, you could use an X statement, although X statements have the drawback of referring to some other game that's out there. Ultimately, when you start describing your game, you want to describe it in such clarity that it would be clear enough for anyone who is a game developer to take your proposal and turn that into a prototype or a game. And that's where you're heading for with the writing. So some of these other things are just the same as before: the target market, the genre, and the hardware, ESRB rating. And now we're going to have what's the premise of it. This is maybe a more detailed than the summary. A summary might be one or two sentences. If there's characters and style, what's the backstory, any kind of text for instructions, dialogue that you expect to see at the beginning of the game or the end of the game, or some sort of NPC discussions. What are you going to do for a graphical user interface, or GUI? So make an educated guess for that if you're not sure. That's the same about the art design file list, audio design file list. Sounds and music that you would like to have ideally, or best what to put down, and um, you just imagine the best scenario possible of your game being when it's complete. And this is an extension of what we talked about last time: a list of all the scenes and a description of how the user experience of the game will flow between the scenes. Again, you're writing this as if somebody else could take this document and build your game. A typical team project would have an introduction and an instruction scene, three large level scenes, let's say, and a win screen or a lose screen, or both at the same one. If I view your project as too easy or too hard, again, or your instructor, your instructor will give you feedback. So in reality, a proposal would have an estimate of the total development time and the number of people required to work on the project. So this is kind of a gamble where you hope that you're going to earn the money back for the company by going in this direction. Think of your proposal document as an explanation to management of where their money will be going once they give you the green light. Simultaneously, it will serve as a rough draft of your game development document, or GDD. At this stage, I recommend that team members, if you have two or more people on a team, those who are going to focus on programming make prototypes which test out ideas for your game, i.e. like game mechanics. So if you need to start over, this is the point at which you've got to start over and have something very feasible, or rework the idea that you had last week. So the game mechanics, if it's arrow keys or WASD, you want to document that in feasibility. So the proposal is flexible. You can add anything to it that simply clarifies, details of your project. And here's an example. If you want to take a look at it, just pause the video. So for homework, it's pretty much what you were doing last week, but the next stage of that. Hopefully you'll be refining something, making custom documentation, a game like if you're having a narrative type game, a game prototype, artwork, audio, or some kind of level design, and turn it into D2L assignments. So let's go look here. Um, for people working with the either level design or programming, this would be a good idea that this week you come up with this list of scenes here. And here's a title scene, level 1, 2, 3, and an ending scene. There's also, they have, because they had a complicated game mechanic, they had two different scenes. One was a reference scene that they would copy from and put it into the test scene. And then once that was okay, they could move it to like a level 1, 2, or 3. So when you start out, as many objects as you think will be in that level will be good to have. But notice that at this point, there might be just a rectangle or a question mark. So like this title screen, it just, has a little bit of text on it, which rather than start, they say recharge because that's appropriate for their game. And at the ending, they say congratulations. So you don't actually have a lose screen for theirs, that you can only win or you don't get there. And then this is a testing screen. Anything that you want to comment on, you can do that. But if you just focus over here, this does not look like a finished game. I mean, it looks like a prototype. And if you have a side view or top-down view, you'll be able to box in the area that you have with some sort of boundary objects and just have the framework, kind of a skeleton of your game. And further about level design, I wanted to show this. You certainly can use paper and pencil or pen or anything else where you're taking a picture of it and you upload it. If this is your creative process, then I would encourage you to just go with it. So all the different levels here there's actually, you can zoom in here. You can talk about before things that happen and after things, meaning like the lab 4 and homework 4, there was a dynamite object, and that could, when triggered, destroy other objects. You could do some kind of walls that can move or be destroyed, or some kind of switches. And this is from this link in right here, this level design link. And it comes from, let's look a little bit more here, this gamasutra.com kind of a blog, really long article essentially on retro level design. And they have some principles about if you have multiple rooms, or even one really, really large room, but you have to open, essentially open doors to get there. In their system, they have like a general purpose key, which once you open any door, the key goes away. So you would have some kind of, variable that goes 0, 1, 2, 3 for how many keys you have. And then based on some kind of mini boss, over here they have a special key, and that's the only key that fits this special lock over here. And then you get to the final boss. So they have all this notation, which the person who did the previous level design screen, he started organizing his game, which was pretty elaborate, Game Boy remake kind of game. And so this is the kind of interconnection between the rooms, which these are the rooms themselves. So this is probably a lot more complicated than most of you are going to need to get into, unless you want to continue on after the course for a large-scale project. But that's giving you an idea if you want to ask the question, what do I do for level design? Well, then, read this article.